Hi guys, welcome back again today to another interesting video. So today is all about sewing. It's going to be a sewing tutorial. Okay, so I'm not going to be talking much about the drafting. I'll put a link down in the description box where you can go and check how I drafted this pattern. Okay, it's cupped bustier. Okay, so today I'm going to be showing you guys how to sew this together. Okay, so yeah, I'm just cutting out all of my pattern pieces. Okay, so I'm just cutting out the bottom layer. I've cut out the cup part. Okay, so all of my pieces are ready and I've cut them. I used the 0.5 inch seam allowance. Okay, so yeah, all of my pieces are ready, they are out. Okay, and this is how I'm going to be joining them together. Okay, so that's the cup area, that's the yoke. So I'm going to be cutting the yoke much later. So yeah, I'm just showing you guys how all of the pattern pieces look, how they are going to be joined together. So I'll be cutting out the yoke much later, so I'll keep that aside. So yeah, I'm just going to cut out my breast pad. It's called breast pad or wadding, depends on the area where you are watching me from, depends on what they call it in your area. So I'm just cutting out wadding around all of these pieces. Okay, so yeah, I'm cutting out my yoke as well. So I'm taking out the neckline for the yoke. This is a very easy project, but it's not beginners friendly. Okay, if you're a beginner, this project is not for you, but just make sure to take your time to go and watch out the pattern. I labeled it cupped bustier, but I'll put a link in the description box. So yeah, this is just me bringing out, cutting out the yoke already, and this is how the yoke part looks. Okay, so here is the back pattern. I'm just working on the back pattern. It's just a regular basic bodice. There's nothing much about the back pattern. Okay, I'm just deepening the neckline with 6 inches. I want it to have a really deep neck, and I'm adding my zip allowance to it. I'm using a 1.5 inch zip allowance to the back pattern. So I'm also going to be closing my dart. So I'm having a zip bunch technique here. This is very important. Okay, so I'll also put a link down in the description box. I have a detailed video where I showed how to create a boss a zip budge technique. Okay, so I'm also closing my dart because I don't intend to sew a dart on this pattern. So here is the back pattern ready, and I've cut it out already, and I've also gone ahead to iron the wording to all of my pieces, and this is how they are looking right now. So the next thing for us to do now is to take it to the sewing machine so that we can start joining them together. So guys, yeah, I've gone ahead to pin all of these pieces together in the right way that they should be sewn. Okay, so the next thing that we should do now is to take it over to the sewing machine, and we're going to be sewing all of these pieces together. So yeah, I'm just joining them with 0.5 inch seam allowance, which is actually the allowance that I gave to this piece. So I'm joining the upper part, which is the cup part, and you just need to be careful when sewing this part. Just flow along with the curve. Okay, just going to flow along with the curve. So now all the pieces are sewn, and this is how they are looking. I've also gone ahead to give it a good press. I iron my seam open, and make sure when you are ironing the bustier part, you have to use a tailor's ham. Okay, don't iron your cup straight, you have to use a ham. So now this, I'm going to be joining these two pieces together along all of this cuff part. But before I do that, I'm going to be creating my bony casing. So here is when you want to put any kind of embellishment that you like, but here I'm just going to use the fabric to create a casing so that I can have my bonies inserted. So the first thing I did was to draw out all of my style lines. So you can draw your style lines whichever way that you like it. So I'm just going to be using all of these style lines here to create the casing and to insert my bonies So I have the Regilin boning here, and I also have the plastic boning here as well. So but for this project we are going to be working with the plastic boning. Okay, so now we'll go over to the sewing machine so I can show you guys how to create a boning casing. So yeah, I'm going to show you guys how to do this. This is one of the easiest method that you can use to create a boning casing as well. So my strip measures 1 inch wide, okay, and make sure when you cut out your strip it's really straight. So I'm going to be facing it right side facing each other, okay. So then you sew first on one side. So I'm going to sew that all the way down. So after sewing one side, you are going to now flip it over and fold, okay. So this is not really easy to do, but you can pre-fold it with your iron. But if you are good enough and you are strong enough, you can do this directly. So but if you have iron, you can pre-fold it, but I found this very easy to do like this, so that's why I'm going ahead to do it. But if not, if you find it a little bit tricky or difficult, you can use your iron to pre-fold it, okay. So I'm just folding in, and make sure your boning cases width is enough to accommodate the wideness of the bonings that you have. Very important. You have to make sure is enough to accommodate the boning that you have. So I'm just going to stitch down on the other side as well after folding it in. If I'm okay with the width that I have, I'm just going to use my hand to start guiding it through, okay. So but when you pre-fold it with iron, you don't need to go through all of this stress, but I find it really easy like this as well. That's why I'm going ahead with this. So I'm going to cut this out, then I'll show you guys another one, then I can do the rest off camera. So I'm also going to place this right side facing each other, okay. So I'm going to sew on one side. So I'm also going to flip it over and I'll fold, okay. So I'm just going to fold it in. So once I'm okay with the wideness, okay, so I'm going to continue sewing. So I'm just going to keep folding and guiding it through to make sure it's straight enough and it has the same width all the way to the end, okay. So I'm just folding it through and using my hand to guide it as I go. So this is really easy, guys, but if you find it tricky to do, just use your iron to pre-fold it, okay. So I'm also going to later top stitch on the other side, but I'm just going to finish everything, then I'll not top stitch also on the other side, okay. So now all of my boning casing are done and are ready. So you can see I stitched on the both side, okay. So now I'm not going to start inserting all of my bonings, and make sure your bone is wide enough to accommodate your boning casing, and try as much as possible to move away from your seam allowance, and you're going to be inserting your boning moving away from your seam allowance. So now that all of my bonings are inserted, I'm going to now be joining the cup part to the lower part now, okay. So you don't need to add a bra cup to this already, so I'm just going to be joining them together, and you have to be easy on that curve and the sharp edge, okay. You see I had to sew from one side to the other end, okay, and I'm going to take off my thread, then I'm going to check if everything is fine and okay around there, good. So then I'm going to continue sewing to the other end, okay. So you just have to be careful when you sew this part, because you want everything to come out really flawless, okay. So I'm just going to go gently and gently. Okay, now this is done and it's looking all nice. Okay, so you can see what we have. So this is really flawless and it's okay. This is what we have on the inside. Okay, this is what the inside looks like and this is what the good side looks like. So we can go ahead now and add the yoke to it and add the lower skirt to it to make it a full dress. So now the yoke has been added. Okay, I've added my yoke already and my client is really busty. Okay, my client is a really busty client, so I used the satin fabric as the yoke. Okay, so now I also gone ahead to join the lining. I joined the lining the same way that I joined the outer fabric. Okay, so I'm just going to now be placing them right side facing each other and I'll use the lining to turn it over so then I can join it to the lower skirt. So now here's just me bringing out the back. I've joined the back already. You can see the back is looking all neat. I've joined it to the lower skirt. It's a 6-panel skirt. Okay, so here's me arranging the back side. So I'm going to keep that aside and I'll bring the front. I've turned the front with the lining already, so I'm going to be bringing it to the lower skirt to join it together. So yeah, I'm just going to illustrate to you guys what I did for the back. I'm going to do the same method for the front to make it like an inseam finishing at the joining part. So I'm going to flip the skirt open to the wrong side. Okay, the skirt is open to the wrong side and I'm going to put the top part into it with the right side facing, or rather lining facing the lining and the main outer fabric facing the outer fabric, with right side facing on the inside. So I'm just going to tuck it in like so, then I'll take my pins and pin this all the way down. So I'm just going to pin. So when you do this, you want to make sure your skirt part and the upper part, they have the same wideness. So now I'm done pinning, so I'm just going to go to the side seam. I'll show you guys. So I'm just going to open at least 2 inch or 3 inch anywhere around the side where I'm going to be bringing out the upper part from. Okay, because we want it to have an inseam finish, or rather a clean finish at the joining part. So I'm going to open up 2 or 3 inches here. So this is how I'm going to turn it all the way out when I'm done sewing. So now I'll take it to the sewing machine. Now it's been sewn and this is what I have. You can see the joining part has a clean finish. There's no rough edge anywhere at the moment, so that's the reason why I had to do that. So if you find this still confusing, you can ask me a question in the comment section. I'll be glad to answer every of your questions. So now here's the 2 inch where I opened, where I brought it out from. I actually used 3 inches at the end of the day. So I'm going to just give that a top stitch and it's not going to even show. Nobody's going to see it. It's just going to be somewhere around your side joining seam. Okay, so now the next thing to do, I'm going to join the back to the front and I'll join it at the shoulders and my dress will be ready. I'll add my sleeves and everything will be ready. So now guys, here's the finished look of our cupped bustier. Okay, and my client is a really busty one, so I just gave her like a flutter sleeve and we're all done and we're all ready. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe. Bye.